In this Mixing with Mike tip, we're going to talk about optical compression. So let's go over here to our sketchbook and take a quick look at what optical compression is. Essentially, when you create an optical compressor, or we deal with optical compression, what we're looking at is essentially a light bulb, right, or something to that effect. And what we're doing is our audio voltage is feeding into this light bulb, which then radiates varying degrees of brightness. Now, the bulb in earlier years was more of like an incandescent bulb, and later became an LED because they last longer, more sustainable, etc. And then what you have is a photo sensitive or light sensitive sensor. And what this does is essentially it reads those variations in light and then instructs an amplifier how to apply gain to the audio signal. So the audio signal is passing through the amplifier and the instructions are coming from the photoelectric sensor. The basic idea is that the variations in light will vary in intensity and the speed in which the light goes on and off, which is not instantaneous. You think of light as being the fastest thing, the speed of light, being ridiculously fast, 176,000 miles per second or something like that. And but in the process of turning it on or off, it's not as fast as what you think, because you're actually taking a component and you're making it go on and off. And so this creates a distortion characteristic in terms of the attack and the release time of an optical compressor. And this is an important part of the sound. So when you think about compression and you apply the attack time, the only thing that you think of in terms of the way it's applied is the knee, which might vary or kind of crossfade the attack. But this is more of a linear kind of characteristic in terms of the way it's applied. So what happens is the attack is a slow curve kind of characteristic in terms of the way that it's applied. And the release time also has a slow characteristic in terms of the way that it's released. So optical compressors are kind of smoothing, and they have kind of a softening effect on the sound, and they can add clarity to the sound. So when the actual audio signal passes above threshold, the actual attack is not instantaneous, or it's not as fast, and that has to do with the basic components that are used, and how these physical components and how they actually respond to the voltages that are being fed into them. So this simple thing kind of becomes an important part of what optical compression is all about. So moving on, if we take a look at some classic optical compressors, you have the Avalon compressor here, which is this is more of a modern compressor. Avalon makes incredible stuff, especially their Class A line, and this is absolutely one of those. So this is an optical compressor, and more famously the Joe Meek compressor, optical compressor, which is also very cool. He was kind of an interesting guy if you read about Joe Meek. One of the most popular ones that you see today is the Teletronics LA2A, which has been emulated by Waves, and Universal Audio obviously owns the rights to all of that now. You can see the UA symbol here on this, probably the plug-in picture. And then the TubeTech CL2A, which is a variation of this, which is also an optical-based compressor that is somewhat emulating what's going on with the LA2A, hence the name CL2A. Interestingly enough, if we go here to Pro Tools, the CLA2A, very similar, is the Waves variation of that, and that was Chris Lord-Alge's version now of the of their emulation of his LA2A, which happens to be very good. Now, the one thing that you'll notice about this, and what it's very good for, when you have something that's slow, it doesn't really work as well with generally with very transient materials. So you're not likely to use an LA2A to compress shakers and hi-hats and things like that. It's not aggressive or fast enough. It's softer. Where it is beneficial is on instruments like basses and vocals and things like that, where it adds like a clarity or an open characteristic. So just putting this on without really, and I can take away any kind of peak reduction here. Aside from a little bit more gain here, which is just a matter of just like adjusting the output gain, what you're getting through the components here is a bit of openness, right? A little bit of clarity. So if I kind of mix in a little bit of just get a touch of gain reduction here. You don't really need to get a lot of it, but you can see that the attack characteristic and the way the needle moves is not very aggressive or fast. And even if I kind of crank it up a little bit more, right, you can see that it's not reacting very quickly, and that's not the way that optical compressors work. Now, because the base characteristic is generally kind of soft, that kind of works really well, right, for this type of thing. So this is the kind of characteristic that you get. A little bit of clarity, openness. Now, most optical compressors, like this one, the LA2A, employ the use of other components. So, for example, part of the LA2A is also putting in tube circuitry, although the tube circuitry is not used for the compression or for creating of compression. That's the Varamute compressor, and we will talk about that in a later tip. But those components are used to add depth and warmth to the sound. But it's the optical component that creates the clarity, what I call kind of a glassiness or shininess to the sound, or polish, which is a great way of putting it. And that kind of defines a bit of the characteristic of what makes an optical compressor so great. And that's the form of coloration that you would go to this type of compressor for. And all of the optical compressors do this in varying ways, but that is the basic essence of what optical compression is all about. And this ends this Mixing with Mike tip. So if you are interested in joining the live Mixing with Mike classes, I mix live songs, your songs, if you sign up. Multi-tracks, I can take your mixes and analyze them and talk about them. I do so every Wednesday night for 2 hours, starting at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. If you go to mpginsider.com, then you will see the MPG Music Production School. Click on the Mixing with Mike link for instructions. If you sign up for the newsletter, you can join the live classes for free. This is another Mixing with Mike tip. Hope you enjoyed it.